So, with turkey season coming up soon, I decided that I wanted to take my Winchester SXP and drill and tap it so I can put a red dot on it. Now, I have absolutely no prior experience in any type of gunsmithing. I've done basic disassembly and cleaning and whatnot, but I wanted to make this video showing how I drilled and tapped my gun, because honestly, I found it pretty easy, and I thought there's probably some other people in my same situation that have most of the tools they need and don't want to pay $100 for 2 holes to get drilled in their gun. So the first thing you're going to want to do is to choose a mount that's compatible with your red dot. Now, anything I mention in this video, I'm going to link below, and I'll put a picture of it on the screen, but this is the mount I got. It's the True Glow receiver mount. It's meant for the Remington 870 that has the pre-tapped holes drilled into it. But if you're drilling your own holes, it doesn't really matter so long as the mount fits the contour of your shotgun, because the spacing between the holes doesn't really matter since you're going to drill them yourself. Now, another couple things you're going to want, you need a very stable vise to hold your gun while you're drilling into it. Not having a vise is going to make this extremely difficult and maybe impossible, so I would very much suggest that. You're going to need a hand drill, preferably one that has slower settings. You don't want a super high speed drill when you're hand drilling it, just in case anything goes wrong. Next, you're going to want something to mark the receiver of your gun. I just used my punch kit, that worked fine. But if you're strapped for gear, honestly, something like a hammer and a nail will probably work just as well. Final 2 things you're going to need. You're going to want a properly sized drill bit. If this will focus, there we go. I'll get into the sizing right after this. And finally, you're going to need the actual taps, and then the handle to go with the tap to twist it in. Now, my biggest issue with this was finding the proper sizing. There's honestly not a ton of information out there, but I did manage to find a chart that helped me out a ton. The thread size of the mounting screws that came with my red dot mount were 6-48, and so the tap you want to buy is going to match the thread size. So I got a 6-48 tap, and then I'll put the chart up and I'll also link it below. But depending on the tap size you need, your drill bit size is going to vary. The final one I used was a number 31. But I used 2 smaller drill sizes before I used the final one, just to make some pilot holes and make sure nothing went wrong. Oh, also a level is going to help you out a bit. I forgot to mention that. But that's pretty much it for the hardware you need. Once you have everything ready and you're all prepared, you're going to want to disassemble your gun. And then I put 2 rags on either side of my receiver to make sure it doesn't scratch or anything, and then slowly tighten the vise. And before I clamped it down all the way, I kept it a little loose. I put the level on top of the receiver, just to make sure everything was nice and flat. Now, when I started filming this, I already had one hole kind of worked on, but what I did is I put my red dot mount around where I wanted my red dot in my gun. Then I found the very center of the receiver of my shotgun. Mine was pretty easy to find because I have those ribs running up along the middle. So I kind of just counted them in and then made my mark right in the middle of all of them. If you don't have any type of indicator on where the exact middle of your gun is, you're going to have to measure it. Then you can make a little pencil or Sharpie mark right where the exact middle is. Then what I did from there is I took a smaller sized punch and just kind of hit it on the top a couple times, made a little dent in the top. And I went up a size, did the same thing. Then after that, go up 1 more size on your punch, make another mark. You just want to make sure that the diameter of the bottom of your punch isn't bigger than your drill bit. But after I marked it, I started off with my smaller drill bit. I very slowly got that hole started. In the very beginning, when you're first drilling that first indent into your receiver, you want to go very slow. Make sure the drill bit doesn't slide around or anything. And at that point, I just drill 5 to 10 seconds, take the drill bit out, blow everything off, and clear all the debris off the bit. And then went back in, kept drilling another 5 to 10 seconds, kept clearing debris, kept repeating that process till finally made it all the way through the gun. Now, I didn't actually have the right size drill bit. At this point, I had to order it, and I was just drilling the pilot holes in the first place until I waited for it to get delivered. So what I did was I drilled both holes in my receiver so that when it did get delivered, I was fully prepared. And to mark the second hole, I took my red dot mount and I put my punch through the top hole and then down into the hole I just drilled in my gun, just to secure it there while I measured the second hole. Then I took the first punch I used to mark the other hole, found the exact middle in my gun again, and I put that punch directly in the middle of the mounting screw hole in my red dot. Then again, I counted the ribs over to find the exact middle of my gun. Then I just moved the mount over and made my marking. Again, I used the smallest punch and used 2 larger ones after that just to make a good groove that the drill bit could sit in so it doesn't slide around. After I made that mark, I just wanted to double check that it was directly in the middle of where that receiver was sitting, just so that when I'm actually mounting the receiver there's no issues and I don't need to work on another hole or something. After I made sure of that, I just started to drill again. Same exact process. I used my smallest drill bit first, drill about 5 to 10 seconds, clear all the debris, make sure nothing's too hot. if you let your drill bit get too hot, there's a chance that it'll break, and I didn't want anything breaking. So take your time on this process. I definitely took quite a while to do this. You only really get one chance at drilling holes in your gun. But after I punched through with my smallest drill bit, I went to, I think it's a 7/64th drill bit, which I believe is a number 35. So slightly smaller diameter than number 31. Can always make the hole larger, can never make the hole smaller. So I doubled through the same hole with the 7/64th, made it a little bit wider. When I did make it all the way through with the bit, I kind of plunged it up and down a bit just to make the hole nice and smooth. And then finally, my drill bit and my taps came in so I could finish the gun. Just to double check the size, I would recommend you guys do this too. I took some scrap piece of wood and then took my number 31 drill bit, made a hole, took my 6x48 taps and screwed it through that hole. Then I took my mounting screw and just made sure it screwed into the wood. It's a good way to check it without actually doing it to your gun and then realizing it doesn't fit. Now again, I just use the same process with this number 31 bit. I drill for about 5 seconds, take it out, clear all the debris, and then continue on. Then when I made it all the way through, I went up and down a few times just to make sure everything was smoothed out. Then after the first hole, he moved to the second hole, same process. And then after using the number 31 bit to make those holes, I put my tap into the handle and got to work on the first hole. Now I think having tapered taps helps a bit in this process because you can kind of put the tap in a little bit and it'll help secure it straight vertical up and down. That's another thing when you're drilling, make sure you're straight vertical up and down or else your screws are gonna be going in at an angle and it's not gonna hold it very well. So very slowly, I started to drill my tap in. I would highly recommend against putting a tap in your electric drill. You don't want to move that fast with the tap. It's going to mess up your threads very much. I would very highly recommend buying a handle and then just doing it like I did. But once I got it in there enough, you can kind of feel the resistance as you twist. And once you start to feel that resistance, what I did is I'd do 1/2 turn forward and a 1/4 turn back. It kind of just helps clear the scrap metal out of there. And doing that, make sure you have very clean threads that you can screw your screws into. Now, if you get a set of taps like I have, you can see it's kind of tapered at the front and then towards where my index finger is right now. It gets smooth. What you want to do is screw it all the way down to the last thread, but don't screw it in so far that the smooth part gets into the gun. There's a chance that can mess your threads up and you do not want that happening. But again, I just kept doing that same process, 1/2 turn forward, 1/4 turn back until I made it all the way down to right above where it gets smooth. And then very slowly, I worked the tap all the way out, unscrewing it. And after I finished that first hole, made sure everything looked good, I moved on to the second hole. Again, same process. Get it started till you feel a good amount of resistance, then 1/2 turn forward, 1/4 turn back, keep doing that all the way down. And then after tapping both holes, it was time to mount the red dot plate on. So I took my plate and mounting screws, lined everything up. And I got the first one started. Again, even with your mounting screws, just screw it in very slowly. You don't want to mess up any of the threads or anything. And also mine came pre-applied with blue Loctite. You're definitely going to want to use some Loctite in these mounting screws. Anything you screw into a firearm is going to experience a lot of recoil and it's going to try and shake itself out. So that Loctite's going to help it. Make sure it doesn't do that. But I worked both in probably halfway. I didn't want to tighten them all the way down one at a time just in case it went unevenly. So I'd go back and forth between the first and second one. And eventually I tightened them down enough to where I couldn't really screw it in anymore and the plate was very stable down there. After I had the plate on, just screw in your red dot. Same process, you want to tighten both at the same time. You don't want to just tighten one and then tighten the other. And yeah, that was pretty much it. It's a pretty straightforward process, but you want to be very careful with it because you can't really patch a hole in hardened aluminum or whatever your gun's made out of. But if you did want to try it at home, it is very much possible. I'm a guy who likes to know how to do everything, so I wanted to do it myself instead of bringing it to a gunsmith, also save a couple bucks. But yeah, I mean, I'm yet to shoot it. I'm sure there's not going to be any issues with the screws working out or anything, but in a couple months after turkey season's done, I'll definitely leave a comment under the same video letting you know if there's any issues with the screws backing out or anything like that. I do not foresee that happening though. But anyways, hope this helped you guys out. I was a bit nervous before doing this because I really had no idea what to expect, but after I kind of got it started, I realized it's really not too hard. You just need to be careful with the angle of your holes and making sure everything lines up perfectly. Just take your time doing it and everything will be fine. Again, I'm going to link everything I used and everything that I found helpful in the description below. But if you did like this video, make sure to leave me a like. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe. I do videos like this where it's just tips, tricks, how to do stuff. And I do a lot of fishing and hunting stuff. So if you like that, make sure to subscribe. But anyways, I'll be seeing you guys on the next one.